Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif Booth podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with the guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Ritchie Nkana. He is a transformation architect, and welcome to the show, Ritchie.
Thanks, Kashif. Really glad to be here.
Yes, we have been trying to shoot this episode for a while.
No,
Life happens and we're finally here. So I want to ask you, Richie, where are you from? Because I thought you was based in London. Now I'm hearing like this Australian, New Zealand accent. Am I wrong? Or
I'm actually based in London, but I'm a citizen of the
hmm
world. So there's a little bit of a mix of pretty much a whole lot of influences that's been going in there. Yeah, but I'm actually based in London, England.
okay. Where in London are you based?
I'm in West London,
Oh,
Ealing.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. But okay, what is this accent? Like, where are you all from? Like, what's your background?
Yeah, there is a bit of a combination there. There
hmm
is some Canadian background. I got some US background. I got some African background. So it's a bit of
Okay,
a bit of a mix there. And I've been
okay,
in London for I don't know how many years now. In the case of,
okay.
so tell you what, I think that's why the reason I call myself citizen of the world. And when I'm asked
hmm
questions um,
hmm
about my accents, like it's pretty much all over the place, pretty much of a mix. And that's what brings
Okay.
about the richness, I think, of the world as well that we live in
hmm
today. Yeah, so
That's
that's
true. That's true. I love that. I mean, hey, I bet you get that question all the time. Like, where are you from? What's his accent?
I know,
But
definitely.
you're well traveled, and I think that's really cool. I'm always jealous of people who are bilingual. I've always wanted to be bilingual. I want to
Yeah,
go in and out of like another language, But one day, because I
love it.
love the Spanish language, and I'm like, one day, will I have the time? Who knows? But
Yeah.
we'll get there. So I want you to tell me more about you, Richie. You call yourself, a transformation architect. So what does that mean? What does that entail?
Yeah, transformation architect. Just to give you a bit of a background, I come from a banking background. And for me, what I started off with, yes, I was trained as an accountant, but accounting was not really for me. I think I learned and picked up quick enough that I love fixing stuff, loved um, didn't want a predictable day. Like in the case of like when I look at accounting, it's balance sheet is a balance sheet and a P&L is a P&L. You pretty much know exactly what you're going to be doing on a monthly basis. But I kind of drifted more into projects in the case of like fixing stuff because I found myself like whatever role I was actually doing, I found myself trying to make things better. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I went into transformation space. So I've been building systems in the corporate and particularly in the banking sector for the last almost like 20 years now. But in so doing, right, I sort of like found myself having more interest in having the performance aspect of actually the people themselves, the operators behind it all as opposed to the systems, which was my main focus. So that's the reason I call myself a transformation architect. Yeah, to do with systems, be it to our performers. It's about how is it that it's about architecting that, we can creating that, be it in business, be it in life. And I think that is something that I'm very passionate about and how we can show up better on a daily basis, how we can show up better each and every time and keep on improving. And
I love that.
yeah.
I love that because I've never heard of a transformation architect. Like, and what made you decide to want to do this? Because spending years in banking, I saw that you spent like 14 years as an accountant. What was the pivotal moment where you were like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to move into this phase of my career, my life.
Yeah, I think the same change happens two ways, right? It could be through inspiration
Mm-hmm.
or desperation. For me, it was pretty much desperation. So all the stuff I teach and talk about is pretty much my mess, which is now my message, right? So with fitness, it was very, very different because for me, yes, I look myself in the mirror, I did not like what I see. And by looking in myself in the mirror, I don't like what I see, I'm not talking about the aesthetics. Yes, that too, I put on quite a few pounds due to neglect, but I did not like how I showed up for my
Okay.
loved ones. Did not like the way I showed up for my employers. And Kashif, to be honest, I was scared and depressed because I got health conditions that were in my family, and that weight that I was going, things are not looking good. It was time for me to make a shift. And that was a starting point for me going into the fitness world. With fitness, I did reach out for help, as we all should. I reached out to personal trainers and all that. But the solution they were giving me was just no right for me because at that time, my career in banking, long hours and all that, I only had a very short window later in the evening, right? And the solution they gave me was pretty much working around their time, which was no right for me. So I did the next best thing, which I don't recommend because I like fixing stuff, is going back to drawing board. So I studied
Mm-hmm.
everything like PT, metabolic conditioning, sports nutrition, sports therapy, all that stuff, not really to teach, but to pretty much enhance myself. And that's what came out of that solution. Which I started teaching with that. And with that, again, it was very organic because I had family, I had colleagues, friends like, oh, what are you doing? You could see the shift. I was like, I'm only working out 3 times a week, 20 minutes at a time. Goes, no way. Can you show me how to do it? So I started creating programs. So that's how the coaching started. Then how
Yeah.
is it I can actually reach more people? Then the book came up, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a case of how we can efficiently sort of like up level our health and all that kind of stuff. But that was a starting point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then having worked with elite performers over that period revealed quite a few things, a few cracks that I thought it was just me facing. Because, we always focus just on the tools. Health and fitness is just one area.
Okay.
But in speaking to some of these high performers or achievers that were doing so good on paper, like, big money, big numbers, they come to me for fitness, but those other areas that we're actually missing. It could be like maybe that you don't have systems or burning out.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships, maybe an autopilot, right? So that's when they go to me and they realize that, what? Success is not really one dimensional. It's more, it has to be. How is it that we can achieve a sort of like a 360? How is it we can achieve a full spectrum success? And that's how Operator's Edge came about, which is
Mm-hmm.
all about how is it we can pretty much level up without actually burning out.
Yeah, I understand. And so you decided to, start studying like what is entails to be a PT and stuff like that. Were you doing that as you were still an accountant, or did you decide, you know what, I'm done, and decided just to kind of really quit your job and then just start from the ground up? Tell me about that transitional period.
Yeah, it was quite interesting because I was studying.
Mm-hmm.
At the time I was doing banking. I was in banking. At that
Mm-hmm.
point, actually, as an accountant, I did not really practice for a very long time as an accountant because I did figure out quick enough that accounting was, yes, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm a certified accountant,
Mm-hmm.
but I went into banking regulation. So that was my
Okay.
focus, more into the side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so at that point, yes. So I was pretty much studying because I had to pick it up. So
Okay.
working during the day, in the evening, pick up all those studies and everything was just sort of very, very organic. And the thing
Mm-hmm.
about I enjoyed it so much, that's the reason I went deep into that. The idea was just more about research. But
Mm-hmm.
then in sort of like picking up, say, looking at the PT qualification, right? Okay, right. This looks very interesting. Go deep into that. Sports therapy, I found this is actually quite interesting. I went deep
Mm-hmm.
into that. Sports nutrition, I think this is actually good. It complements this. Then
Yeah.
I came across metabolic conditioning, which is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't people actually know about this stuff? Right. So I went deep into that and got certified in that space as well. So it was
Nice.
very, very organic. And again,
Mm-hmm.
never really had that thought of actually teaching because my main thing was banking, right?
Yeah.
It was
Mm-hmm.
never really to teach, but again, it
Okay.
was more just about the
Mm-hmm.
need.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me more about being like in banking and accountants, because there was definitely, it sounds like a pivotal moment where he was like, you know what, I don't like how I'm looking, I don't feel healthy. Is it obviously I don't work in banking, but is it just sitting at a computer screen all day and just eating junk food? Like, tell me about the toll that it can take on you physically, but also like mentally as well. Because I feel like when it comes to your company, body, and bank vitality, it's definitely about changing your mindset and also just coming out of, a slump and trying to be a lot more healthier and positive and just having a better way of life. So describe to me what it's like of being in that type of corporate environment.
Yeah, I think for me, it was more about a wake up call and just that
Mm-hmm.
realization.
Okay.
Because, the thing about the motivation that what took me to banking, I think was something like maybe because of money, right? Which was
Right.
good. So rich in
Mm-hmm.
the bank, but I think emotionally bankrupt. That's how I felt. So this is how it was. Like, you look at
Mm.
it, successful um guy, big numbers, big
Mm.
teams, big goals. But
Yeah.
tell you what, my body was breaking down, energy
Mm-hmm.
tanking by at 2 p.m. Relationships on autopilot, living on
Mm.
caffeine, adrenaline, and dopamine, pretty much damage
Mm-hmm.
control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
realized that, what, be it running a business or in a case of like career, it's not about more hustle,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
about more hustle. It's about
Yeah.
upgrading the operator behind it all,
Mm.
because you cannot run a successful business, right, from a low performance life. And that's where I was actually coming from. So it was more about that hustle and
Okay.
that realization that the truth really is that, your next level is not predicated on more
Mm-hmm.
hustle. It's about on you being that stronger operator, the one that shows up with energy,
Mm-hmm.
clarity, right, and conviction in every domain of life. And this is the reason why, because, energy drives what? Execution, right? If your energy's tanking, you won't be able to execute, right? Systems drive scale. And we need to have systems, personal systems, business
Yeah.
systems to drive that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Relationships pretty much fuel everything. And that is my realization, and that's what took me to that direction, to make that shift, that more people need to know about this stuff.
I like that. I like that a lot. And from that transitional period of like, okay, being an accountant, learning to become a PT, what was the moment where you was like, you know what? I want to actually help other people because you just touched on it now, but it wasn't initially your plan, but what made you lead to starting, Body and Bank Vitality? What was the moment where you was like, you know what? This has helped me. I want to help other people. What was that like? And what made you want to do that for people?
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because you know what? Because I think, as I indicated, people came to me because they were seeing that
Mm,
transformation in me. And when I
right.
told them how I achieved it, they could not believe, can you do a program for me? So that how it
Uh-huh.
started. And
Okay.
guess what? They would then go tell their friends, their family, and people keep
Mm,
on. I was like, I cannot do this. Right? How is it I can actually do it? But I enjoyed it so much.
mhm,
So
mhm,
what I
mhm,
did is I reached out to a business coach, for one of my very early mentors, and
mhm,
I reached out to him. I was like, you know what? There's this thing. I know I'm good at it. I enjoy it.
mhm.
But I've got my main thing, which is this. How is it that I can actually balance this off? Then
Right,
he gave
right,
me
right.
ideas in how I could actually reach more people. I think one of
Okay.
them was, how is it? So what I did is create like an app, which
Mm,
is tailored, say, like workout, so more people can actually be given the programs and all that kind of stuff. But it went beyond that, because then I'll go like, all right, how can I reach more people? That's when the book came about as well.
okay.
All right. So it was very organic in that perspective. And it was
Mhm.
from the need, the feedback I was getting, not
Yeah.
only from, say, family, friends, colleagues,
Mhm.
right? Clients. The market actually gave me that feedback.
Okay. Mhm.
And because I enjoyed it, so it was such
Yeah.
an easy sort of like transition for me to get into
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And I want you to talk more so about yourself. Like, what was the transformation you had? Like, you said, you weren't happy about how you were looking. So, what transformation did you have? Did you go from, I'm being dramatic, did you go from like 300 pounds to 160? What was that like for you? Like, how did your health habits change, and how did it change your mental health as well? Like, how did it benefit you really doing this mentally and physically as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point you just raised there because you mentioned things like mental health. I think those are kind of things you're not spoken of enough. It's
Mhm.
on the physicality, which is good. I lost about 40 pounds,
Mhm.
which is awesome. I think if you look at my LinkedIn profile, look like chubby banker or ex chubby banker, because I was a bit chubby at that moment in time. But
Mhm.
yes, dropping that 40 pounds, you
Mhm.
know, the thing about it is having a six pack and being able to maintain 10% body fat right now, or pretty much all year round, is something I can
Mhm.
actually achieve. But that's just one piece, right? Because when we talk about fitness, a lot is always about the aesthetics, but
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
just a bonus that comes with it. Yes, I maintained that in my case. I
Mhm.
achieved that. But I think the biggest thing is my energy levels, how I showed up, and my
Mhm.
mental conditioning. Because we don't
Yeah.
talk much about in the case of like, which I cover in my book,
Mhm.
studies on what fit. I was talking to bankers actually not very long ago.
Mhm.
And the question I asked them is like, what comes to mind when we talk about fitness? And
Mhm.
they go like, well, about six pack. I think one said about confidence, but for the most part, people look at it more from the aesthetics perspective.
Yeah.
I was like, we go like, oh, Richie, I do understand the benefits of exercise and fitness, but I just do not have the time. It's like, that's quite
Mm.
interesting. But what
Uh,
if I told you, that's what I told him. What if I told you that studies have shown that when you exercise, you're 20% more productive, right? What if I told you that when you exercise, right, in your situation, as man, because I'm being in that arena, so I know what it's like, can be quite stressful, which means what? Your cortisol levels are elevated,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which because of stress. And what do
Mhm.
you need to
Mhm.
counter that? You need things like serotonin, dopamine. And what if I told you that when you exercise, those are kind of natural benefits you get from that? Then we could talk about the cognitive function, which I cover in my book as well, that study on the
Mhm.
cognitive function, right? Because there is what we call BDNF. BDNF drives neurogenesis, which is the reproduction of brain cells. And it's been found that when we exercise, levels of BDNF can be enhanced as much as threefold,
Mhm.
right? So I was talking to them like just about these 3 points I just mentioned right here, because one, you're talking about how you just show up. Because in that demanding job, one, you want to dampen your stress levels, right? Two, right, you want to bring, those good, happy hormones like in case serotonin, dopamine. But
Mhm.
at the same time, you want to up level your cognitive acuity, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of stuff that I achieve through fitness. So
Mhm.
based on that, do you still think fitness is a necessity or just an option? It's like, oh, now I got to
Mhm.
think about it. It is a necessity. Right. So there's a lot
Mhm.
of studies to that. And you mentioned in the case of like mental health as well, the study that was
Mhm.
done by UC Davis. UC Davis found, they did a study on a group of people that were in a depressed state, and they found the levels of GABA and glutamate. GABA and glutamate is sort of like a brain messaging hormones, and they found that levels of GABA and glutamate were suppressed. Now, what's so interesting is that when you exercise, levels of GABA and glutamate naturally elevated, right? So it's things like that which are not spoken of enough when we talk about
Oh,
fitness, when we
yeah.
talk about health. Yeah, so that
Mhm.
yeah, so that is
I love that. And I think it's very important because when you're feeling good, it helps your mental health as
yeah.
well, and people don't realize the connection of that. I think sometimes people think mental health is such a buzzword. Oh, just relax. In my day, we never had to do this. We never spoke about it's like, yeah. And that's why you guys are carrying around loads of issues.
But
Okay.
totally.
Like you need to have the physical and mental, you know, health be synonymous. If it's not synonymous, then you're just going to be a mess. You'll burn out. That's one of the key things that I saw when it comes to your brand. It's really talking about burnout and how, it affects your day to day. It affects your family life, your friends' life, your work life. And if they're all not in a good space, then it's just going to be a mess. And so I did want to ask you, when it comes to your clients, what is the ratio between men and women? Who have you noticed, takes more care or interest in their physical health, which obviously leads to their mental health? What is that like for you in your client database?
That's quite interesting, actually. I never really thought about. That's a very good question, but it's a bit of a mix. But one thing I've noticed as well is I think women tend to be a lot more, I think, aware of it. I think with men, I was actually on a show not very long ago in the case of, I think we're talking about this in a case, because I saw that in the banking world as well. Men, we have at times almost like this machismo, like we have to toughen it out. We are supposed to express our feelings. So there is this element of at times denial of actually what's actually going underneath. So women tend to be a little bit more open to, all right, this needs to shift. I need to make this change. Whereas men is trying to create that open space. I think things are getting better now that safe spaces are being created where
Yeah.
men can actually open up and feel like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I need help, and I'm just not the
Okay.
only one going through this
Mm-hmm.
situation. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit of a mix.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a lot more men because at times, women now are taking up a lot of very high demanding roles as well. It's not
Mm-hmm.
what it used to be in the past, where it's mostly men who are in those pressured environments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what we're talking about here, be it burnout, is pretty much covers both genders, right? So it's just that awareness at times that we don't ignore it and think
Yeah.
that we're just alone in that boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a black man, how did you find working in the corporate space? Did that also take a toll on your mental health and really lead to you? Well, was it one of the reasons why you led to like finding, fitness and a new outlet? Because, sometimes especially in the corporate world, it's not, especially in this country, it's not very diverse,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of, microaggressions that we have to face. Was that some of the contributing factors as well? Because it's a very high pressure job. And so when you're having all of these different kind of pressures on top of that, did that affect you as well?
Yeah, I think we can run out from the fact that at times in a case of race, we
Mm-hmm.
tend, you have just extra layer of
Yeah.
complexity that comes into play. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I've always had this, um, I think this philosophy, I think from pretty much day one, is that how is it you can get so good that it cannot be ignored, right? As
Mm.
opposed to looking at, because we can always blame circumstances. And the thing about it, be it a color of his skin or whatever it is, we cannot change that. Those are not uncontrollables. And I don't focus too much on the things that I cannot change. Just focus on the things
Mm-hmm.
that I can actually change. I do
Mm-hmm.
mentor kids here in London, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
people of, in a case, who come from a minority background. I volunteer for one of the charities, and we do that. Actually, we have a
Mm-hmm.
session coming up this Saturday. And
Mm-hmm.
once I took them through a similar session of that sort, and we're talking about, it was on financial literacy,
Mm-hmm.
and because studies really based on HMRC were, in the case of top earners here in the UK, were of obviously maybe of a white background and all that. So the question I asked them, I posed to them was like, right, okay, looking at these stats, what makes you think these people, the 1%, what you got, the 1%, why does it look that way? And the kids were like, oh, maybe inheritance. But I was like, but those are earnings, right? It's not so much
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in the case of color came up as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I was like, right, okay. That was quite interesting because at the very young age, these kids are from the age of like about 13 to about 18, somewhere around there. So we're talking through that. But I was like, what? Right. Regardless of what you just told me right now, go sit down in groups, try and figure out how you can get to that 1%. Then you come back and we're going to talk about that. What came out of that was very magical because
Mm,
at the end of that session, what they came back with was not those excuses of circumstances that we're in, not about the postcode they're in, not about the neighborhood, not about their background, but more about what they can actually do to get to that 1%.
okay.
Right, which was amazing, and that shift, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, to your question, there's always that element we can run out from that fact. It's not like you're burying your head in the sand, but it's all about
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at the
yeah.
things that you can actually control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And that's the best attitude to have because you're gonna face that. As
yeah,
Black people, we're gonna face that.
yeah,
And once we're entering that world, we already know. So we just have to focus on what we can control and use it to our own benefit. So you've touched a little bit on your book as well. And so I just want to ask you more about the book. Obviously you transitioned into wanting to help people, but what led to you deciding that you wanted to write a book so that people who aren't your clients can also, buy the book and help themselves as well?
yeah, and that's exactly it. It was more about the people that I could not work
Mm-hmm.
directly with because I think
Okay.
what I came upon at that point is like I wish I had known this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was itching. How is it I can actually reach more people? How is it I can actually talk to
Yeah.
more people? Right. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason I
Mm-hmm.
think with the digital world now and like say your show, Kashif, this is actually awesome because then we can reach more
Mm-hmm.
people and bring
Yeah.
about that education and that
Mm.
idea that you know what, it doesn't have to be that way. So
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
yeah, the idea behind Body and Bank Connection, which is a book, right? Yes, Body and Bank, in the literal sense, it could be like how is it we can elevate, yes, our bodies, but in the case of a bank account in the literal sense, but also as a metaphor, whatever bank account we're looking to fill, be it our productivity bank account or a fulfillment bank account, our energy bank account, it starts with our bodies. Right. And so what I did with that book is bring about the same sort of like same principles that would be applied to transformation in the case of
Yeah.
bodies, how
Mm-hmm.
those can actually be applied to our personal finances as well. So that is the principle behind it. It's all about how is it we can level up in those areas that it doesn't have to be binary.
Yeah.
Because that's one I was getting. Because what prompted me is when I was speaking to other fellow bankers, like that story I just told you earlier, indicate I don't have time and you put food on the table. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be binary. You
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
do them both, and it's even
Yeah.
much more sweeter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I definitely understand that. And from you starting Body and Bank Vitality, it really has just done so well. I've seen you've been, featured on Fox and the Times. What was it like, going from being in the corporate world to now being featured in these big platforms, and just to share your business and your mission? What was that like?
It was amazing. It's something that I never really thought, even getting an award for the book itself. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was something that I never really anticipated. It's been such a, I think those are kind of things that, yes, they come, they're nice to have, but at the same time, I feel there is a long way to go and how I
Yeah.
can actually reach
Mm-hmm.
more people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's always good to be seen, to be appreciated, and to reach more platforms. Be able to be featured because that way you can, talk to more people because that's the whole
Yeah.
idea, right? About that
Mm-hmm.
message.
Yeah.
Which I think is something I had sort of like put back a little bit in the case of like being on stage. I'm just going back on stages now in case of
Yeah.
sensitizing people on these
Mm-hmm.
ideas because I think it is really, really important. And these are kind of things I wish I had known earlier on. Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
taken me, I don't know how many years to get to it, but how
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it we can shorten that learning curve for
Mm-hmm.
others?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole
Yeah.
point. That's what coaches
Mm-hmm.
do. That's what speakers do. That's what
Yeah.
writers do.
Mm-hmm.
What took
Mm-hmm.
me over 10 years, I put in a
Yeah.
book, you can pick it up
Mm-hmm.
in what? In a few hours, in
Yeah.
days.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the success you've been able to get, I mean, sometimes it's great to receive these awards and great to be featured on platforms like you said, but it shows that when you find your purpose and your path, that's why you're successful in your business now, because you've actually found what you're supposed to be doing, and it's it's a ideal goal for everyone to find that. Sometimes we fall into situations because of, you never know what it is, going around you, family situations, you just never know. But once you find that purpose, it's great. So I wanted to ask you as well, can you describe in 3 words just what your brand represents and why it's important for people, especially in the corporate world, to have it?
Okay. In
Mm-hmm.
3 words, upgrading the
Mm-hmm.
operator behind it all. Is that 2 words? That's
Mm-hmm.
more than three. It's scale without sacrifice. It's 3 words.
I love that.
A
I
scale
love
without
that.
sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what it represents, because that's the whole idea. It's all about how is it we can scale without sacrificing the things that matter the
Mm-hmm.
most. Could be health, relationships. You know, we can be able to execute. We can be able to up level in all areas of our needs, be the health, wealth, or relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Without sacrificing the things that
Okay.
matter the most.
I love that. So where can people find your book so that they can get it and just get connected with you so that they can, book you and become a client?
Yeah, the best place to get me is that's richinkana.com. But I think I'm always on LinkedIn. I post on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn pretty much on a daily basis.
Okay.
And I respond to every message there. I've got some good resources on there as well. I've got a
Okay.
good free diagnostic tool on there as
Mm-hmm.
well. And trying to see exactly where your leaks are as an operator. You can pick it up on my LinkedIn site, which is Ritchie Nkana. So yeah, so the book is Body and Bank Connection. So that's bodyandbankconnection.com.
That. And where can people say posted with you on social media, just to follow you and see what other inspirational stuff you're going to drop online as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn is the
Mhm.
best, Ritchie Nkana, and
Okay.
I'm mostly very active on LinkedIn and X.
Okay. Okay.
X, Ritchie Nkana. I'm pretty
Hmm.
much, yeah, I'm very active on those two platforms for the most part.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Richie, it's been great speaking to you. I just am excited to see what you have next. So, like, what do you have coming up? Like, what's next for Richie and Body Bank and Vitality as well?
Oh, we got so much great stuff, I think, coming up. There's
Mm-hmm.
quite a few projects I'm working on, some good collaborations I'm having. Well, this launched a very good program as well quite recently, which is pretty much an addition. Again, it stays in the rhythm of Operators Edge, how that you can scale without
Mm-hmm.
sacrificing. This is more about
Okay.
helping
Mm-hmm.
business professionals, speakers, or who
Okay.
are, because I think for the most part, when it comes to marketing, I think one of the areas that is underutilized is actually speaking.
Yes.
And for me, something I'd been using for quite a while, but I never
Mm-hmm.
really taught that. So I've now created a program, pretty much end to end program, getting people from having, so long as you know what problem you're actually solving, having a concept,
Mm-hmm.
to creating a proprietary
Yeah.
solution to that,
Okay.
to actually creating what it calls
Mm-hmm.
signature talk, and how you can actually present that, to getting the stage presence, to then being able to be predictably being booked on stages, having 2 to 4 stages a month. So yeah, so
Okay.
that's the kind of exciting project I've been working on.
Mm-hmm.
And excited to, yeah, to kick that off pretty soon.
Nice. I'm excited to
Mm,
see your journey. So,
yeah.
guys, follow Richie on everything what he's doing so you can stay connected and updated on what he's doing. Like I said, Richie's been great speaking to you and just finding more about, your business and your history and what you've done. So, yeah, it's great. And so, thanks, guys, for listening. You can follow me all on my usual socials. You know them. There's a bunch of them. Stay tuned for new episodes coming soon.